Welcome back to the movie review teacher. I am here today to give you a review over Horizon, the American Saga. Now, I have seen this movie twice. I saw it when it first opened last week, and then I went and seen it again last night, just to see if there are any parts that I missed or anything of that nature. So going into the movie, this week I have read that the movie has flopped at the box office. But I've also seen that Kevin Costner spent $38 million of his own money to produce this film. So with that in mind, my review is really based on what I thought as a social studies teacher, but also as a movie fan. So going into it, I am a fan of Yellowstone and old Westerns, so I kind of had a little bit of high hopes for it. The one thing that the movie does do is, I will say, it breaks down three different storylines very well. So you clearly are able to see that there are three storylines in the film. However, the one thing that I found to be very ironic for a Kevin Costner movie is he did not come in the film until about the first hour. So in the second half of the story, or the second story, is when you're introduced to his character and what he ultimately does. The one thing that I do have a little bit of concern about when it comes to as a teacher is looking at the way that maybe Native Americans are viewed. So the Apache are viewed as an evil group. But the one thing that I found very intriguing was the dialogue between the groups of Native Americans and what their belief and their structure was. So I thought that was good to see. As the stories go on, you do see the violence, you do see the action, you do see the young child growing up to become a man situation. So I thought that was pretty interesting in the first story. We get to the second story, it will take you to around the Wyoming territory, and it's a weird story. So you see, in my opinion, you see the action in story one. You get to story two, and then you start to see a little bit of romance a little bit. You see the actions being done because of love and that kind of thing. So then you get to a third story. In the third story, you get to see more settlers. This is when you see, I believe it's Luke Wilson, his character come into play, leading a group, and how things are digressing there. Overall, I will say, going back to what people have said recently, that it was a box office flop. There's not a lot of people. I was the youngest person in the theater both times. So I am 30 this year. So the one thing I will say is it is fit for more of an older crowd, is what I saw. However, there was not a lot of people in the theater. On opening weekend when I seen it, there was maybe 15, including myself. Last night, there were 4, including myself. I know it's been out a week, so people may have already seen it and moved on, but it's kind of showing that it doesn't draw as much. So, for example, when I seen Bad Boys, the first time, it wasn't very packed, but it was early on in the day. But then when I went a second time in the afternoon, the place was packed. So it just kind of shows kind of where, in my opinion, things are settling down. Now, part 2 comes out in August. Now, when I get my rating is solely based on part 1. I will go see part 2 and see where the story continues or how the storyline will finish. But really, we're looking at part 1 in the rating. So looking at the highs, I thought the casting was done well. I thought the action was done very well too. So you were able to see the different perspectives. You were able to see not really slow pace. There was a story behind each action and each character that was able to develop even in a short amount of time. The lows, the first low and the big thing is it being 3 hours. In many ways, it kind of felt like each story was supposed to get an hour of time, and that kind of drug it on. So I felt like if you're going to break it up, if you do a 2.5 hour, it would be fine. but it being 3 hours was crazy, to say the least. It's the longest movie that I've sat through recently, and that affects the rating. I think the biggest issue that this film had, and what I noticed very early on, is the storytelling. So in many ways, you see that the storytelling jumps around so much that you're not quite sure if the next scene is going to take you into scene A, B, or C. So there's not really a flow. So I felt like what it could have done is told the first story of the Apache and what they're doing, then move into the territories, and then finish off with Owen or Luke Wilson's character. So I feel like even though it did that order, but it would jump back to the Wyoming territory or out west and kind of talk about things that have happened before. So to me, that is a big issue. And that is what I heard people in the theater say was the jumping around, the length. That is a big thing. Overall rating for this film is, to me, out of 5 stars, a 1.9. I will not see part 1 again. I will obviously see part 2 to see whether or not it tells more of a story. So even though this got a 1.9 rating, it does not mean that part 2 will get a lower than that score, a similar score. It could even score higher. So like I said, I really think the big issue with this is the length and the jumping around and the inconsistency. So if you are a fan of Yellowstone and you like Kevin Costner and you want to go see it, try it. If you are a fan of old Westerns and the John Wayne and everything of that nature, just being honest, you probably will not like this film because it's not set up to be more of a Western style. It's more of a Western expansion than a Western film. So keep that in mind if you go. Like I said, 1.9 for me. Definitely could be better. Stay tuned. I will have more reviews coming out this week. Long Legs comes out. I've already done Fly Me to the Moon. And there are a few other films that will be coming out that I will review. Thank you for watching. Please like, comment, subscribe. Be on the lookout. Most of these, what I've determined, will be more car reviews because it'll be straight out of the theater. First reaction, get it there. This does not have to be something high quality. It's cameras and microphones, but it's going to be an honest review. So thank you for watching, and I hope you have a good rest of your day.